2021 North American Ironworkers Impact Conference. It's our first virtual conference, and we're using technology to overcome the challenges we've faced from the COVID-19 pandemic in the past year. Yes, everything changed in 2020, but the Ironworkers in Impact pivoted quickly to continue delivering world-class training and services in a virtual world. We wish we could gather in person this year, but like everything we do, every day, on every job site, safety comes first. We have a great lineup of presenters for you in the next 3 days. You'll hear from the leadership of the Ironworkers and our contractor partners. We'll dig into topics like maximizing business opportunities, healthcare, and the latest technology that'll mean more work for ironworkers and contractors. And like our regular conferences, you'll have the chance to ask questions of our presenters so that you can find out how their knowledge will help you be more successful. So put on a pot of coffee, grab some snacks, and soak up all you can from the first Impact Virtual Conference. We hope it's our last virtual conference and that we'll see you next year in San Francisco.
Hello, as General President of the Ironworkers International and co-chair of Impact, we have provided the resources to help address and overcome the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic and pursue new initiatives as part of a 2021 Zero Incident campaign. The pandemic created devastating effects to our nation and many sectors of our industry. We are saddened by the loss of our active members and retirees due to the deadly virus. The Safety and Health Department redirected many resources to combat the spread of the virus in the workplace. Safety webinars and District Council Safety Hour forums were provided as a service to our members and contractors throughout North America. I want to thank our contractors for your efforts to keep projects working while meeting the many stringent policies pertaining to COVID-19. We will continue to provide necessary resources to better serve our members and contractors. In 2021, the Safety and Health Department will implement several programs and opportunities for our members and contractors throughout our two countries. We will launch new programs that are designed to help prevent workplace incidents and improve safety performance in the workplace. I'd like to thank everyone involved for keeping our members and your companies and job sites safe.
Welcome to the 2021 North American Ironworker Impact Annual Conference. As we've done in the past, we will be asking you a few questions during the general sessions that you can answer with polling at the bottom of your screen. We've got a big brain power packed into this, and we want to make sure we tap into that brain power. Your feedback is very important to us, and it has the power to potentially shape the directions and policies of the organization, so please be thoughtful when you answer these questions. Before we get underway, I want to make sure that I recognize some very, very important people, and I want to start with our Washington-based staff, and I'm talking about Elaine Darby and Susan Avery and Kathy Finch, the admin people that have worked tirelessly to put this thing on. They want to be live with you and see you at registration and see you around the conference rooms, but we can't do that this year, and you all know why, so I don't need to belabor that. But their level of customer service and their dedication to you, your impact is really, really phenomenal, I have to say. And along those same lines, we've got other Washington-based staff in the form of Dr. Cindy Menchez. You'll see her in a breakout video or a short bumper video. We've got Dave Fusen and Sarah Shuttleoffel that represent our finances and our PR and communications outreach, as well as Kenny Waugh in our office. They're all dedicated to making sure we get the job done and keeping our jobs very creative, timely, and here to serve you. I want to say it one more time. I'm not Impact. Your Impact. The leadership, the local leadership out there, the contractor leadership out there, our association leadership, you are Impact. And we need you to be engaged day to day and be able to reach out to our regional directors and give them the feedback so that we can tee it up for your success. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize our phenomenal regional directors in no particular order, kind of going geographically from east to west, then north. We have Mark Thomas throughout the Northeast. We have Kenny Waugh and Harvey Swift that handle the Southeast and Southwest respectively. We've got Zach Gorman that handles the fat part of the center of our country, the U.S., and Jamie McGuire on the West Coast, along with Burt Royer, who has a very small territory up there covering the country of Canada from sea to shining sea. So those are the people that you need to reach out to utilize the vast buffet that is Impact. Anytime you go to our website and click the Programs tab, you'll see what I'm talking about. We're there for you 24/7, 365. And of course, I personally have to thank the Impact Board of Trustees, both labor and management, our contractors and our ironworker leadership for allowing us to continue through the pandemic, through the travails we've all seen this year, and still deliver world-class value. We pivoted to a virtual setting, and quite frankly, we didn't lose much in that pivot. We look forward, though, to seeing you face-to-face. And I'm just going to add one last brief editorial comment. And I said this to the new officer training we had a couple weeks ago. Don't fight the last war. As you've seen in these last 12 months, everything has changed. You have to be adaptable. So I'm sure as you go through the next very brief couple hours each day, you'll see the value that can transpire to your business or your local union to make sure that you're on point. Before I go into our first survey question, we'll do surveys just like we always have. I want to let you know that we will start today as we have, and tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll have a break in the middle. We'll have a number of segments. We'll have a number of bumper videos just like we always have to try and relay the value of what we do. And, of course, we'll ask surveys throughout. And then this afternoon, starting at 1:55 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have the frank discussion. That's where contractors can meet with the highest levels of the ironworkers, and that's basically the general officers and the district council presidents. You can ask them anything you want. Favorite color, or maybe something a little more important than that. That's contractor only. Then Wednesday will start at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that will be an ironworker only day, and you can see the agenda there in your app or online at the conference website. Okay, let's get into tapping into that brain power that's out there, and we're going to throw you the first kind of fun question in the form of a survey. So we've got over 700 people on this thing today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Let's hear what you have to say. The first fun question is, how many Zoom meetings do you think you attended last year in 2020? A, 1 to 10, B, 11 to 100, C, 101 to 500, D, too damn many. And I can see the results pouring in right now. You're doing as directed. And, while we're doing that, I just want to let you know that I know there's a lot of clicks to get in here, but, we have to make sure that certain people are in there and are eligible to get in and so on and so forth. So let's look at the results really quick. If we could throw those up on the screen, and you can see that the vast majority did between 11 and 100. I would have thought the number one question, or the number one answer, would be too damn many. It's too damn many for me. I can't wait to see everybody in person. So with that, thank you. You'll have more survey questions throughout the presentation. Now let's hear from the Talk Crafts Person of the Year, who is a proud member of Local 25 Detroit, an employee at Ideal Contracting.
The James J. Willis Craft Person of the Year Award nominees are craft workers who exemplify a gift for both recognizing the vision of a project and executing that vision to the highest professional standard. That standard includes ensuring optimal health and safety, cost savings innovation, maximizing productivity and efficiency, and an outstanding level of craftsmanship. Honorable mention Jim Davenport was nominated for his work with Ideal Contracting on the Fiat Chrysler Sterling Heights Assembly Plant South paint shop in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Faced with daily challenges on a unique project, Jim's outstanding strategic coordination ensured its successful and safe completion. Through Jim's efforts, 814 tons of structural steel and 114 tons of miscellaneous steel were installed on time. A true leader, Jim never hesitated to lend a helping hand to finish the job. First runner-up, Joshua Kirkpatrick, is being recognized for his work as a bricklayer general foreman for construction and turnaround services at CHS Refining in Laurel, Montana. For more than 20 years, Joshua has acted as a dedicated role model and mentor in his craft. Joshua's expertise was on full display in his use of off-peak timeframes for strategic demolition operations, minimizing hazards, and ensuring his project delivered on time and under budget. This year's winner of the James J. Willis Craft Person of the Year Award is an ironworker for Local 25 in Detroit, Michigan, Tony Poma. Tony was nominated by Ideal Contracting for his outstanding performance in leadership on the General Motors M5 Flint Body Shop and General Assembly Edition. Ranked among Ideal Contracting's top general foremen, Tony led a crew of 55 men to erect 11,000 tons of steel. Throughout the year-long project, Tony was always there to ensure the safety and respectful treatment of each and every worker on the job.
The GM Flint project was a large manufacturing facility, heavy-duty building. Nothing really can happen until that steel frame goes up. So steel erection was pivotal on making this whole job happen.
People think that construction workers are rough and tough, and they are. They are tough guys. But there's a lot of emotion involved there, so basically my role is to keep everything rolling, keep everybody happy.
Tony did an excellent job of coordinating all the work, sticking to the schedule, beating the schedule, and the building was outstanding. Quality was outstanding. They executed the work flawlessly.
He's a very hardworking individual. Everybody that works around him respects him. There's nothing he'll ask you to do that he hasn't done already. He's truly a role model, and he definitely leads by example.
What I keep telling everybody, you know, they praise you for what good job you did. Well, I didn't. It was my guys. They did a great job. Bird dogged is what we call it. I don't need to watch the guys constantly. I have enough faith in the guys that you don't need to stand under them all day.
And the amazing thing about this job is that we turned it over 4 months early. And that's huge, and really because of Tony. One of the main ingredients is Tony, making that happen.
What I was most proud of is that no one got hurt. And that's obviously what we were striving for, but no one got hurt, and it was a great job. My main thing is I want everybody to be safe. Be safe and still get the job done at the same time.
I believe that Tony's a good recipient because of his leadership skills, his dedication to the trade. He has a lot of skill behind him, and it's admirable.
I guess always done is talk to people how you want them to talk to you with respect and be honest and work hard. That's it. I'm here to tell you guys a little bit about how I came about getting this award. The award was presented to me obviously without me knowing at all that it was coming. I didn't practice for it. I didn't have a crew that was going out to get it. It just happened to be what we got, you know, from the work ethic that the guys have. There's really nothing that I did alone to get this award. I had a team right down from project engineers to apprentices cleaning anchor bolts. You know, it's a whole big team that we got out there for building what we build. And in this instance, for this award, we did a good job. We brought it in ahead of schedule, and no one got hurt. And we continue to do that. Since then, I've been on quite a few projects, and this one that we're on, it's on another GM project. It's probably over 3,000 tons, and we're doing well so far. Been an iron worker now for over 25 years. My whole family, my dad, grandpa, uncles, cousins, they're all iron workers. And I came to work here at Ideal over 14 years ago. I think we're going on 15 now. And it's never been a company that I've had to leave. They've kept me busy this whole time. And in that time, I've moved up through the ranks from being basically your ironworker connector to moving on to being a foreman, and then obviously the general foreman, and now I'm the superintendent, and have been that way for the last probably 6 years, and been on multiple projects for Ideal, and they continue to take care of me and my family, and obviously a lot of the guys that I have run with for the last 6-7 years, they do the same for them too. They treated everybody that I've come in contact with as far as manpower very well, and that's how we can keep a good crew behind us. I think it all boils down to being a good person, being a good employee. I've told this to guys several times. I've told it to foremen, I've told it to apprentices quite a bit. Ironworkers are a passionate crew. Construction people are a passionate crew. And with that passion, a lot of times you get some mouth. And I've had to tell apprentices before, as long as your hands can keep up with your mouth, it's a good thing. But when your mouth overrides your hands, I don't need you. And they need to keep stuff like that with them. Throughout my career, I've always, again, I've treated people how I want to be treated. You do unto others, right? How you want to be done to. I'm out to get the job done and safely. And in the meantime, you have other crews, other companies, other crafts that see what you have in mind. People are smarter than what we give them credit for, and if they see that somebody's out there to better a job, better a project, a lot of times they'll be behind you on any decisions you may make, or if maybe it's not a decision, that it's the right one. They're there to help you with the right decision instead of stepping back and watching and waiting for you to fail. Our company's probably not alone, but we have a whole separate team, a COVID team, that helps us along with our COVID, with the process, with the different standards that come from CDC to keep us all up to date on what the new things are coming from COVID, what the new policies. So we've got a whole team with Ideal that is all over that. As far as COVID on the job site, it's affected every job site. It's every day we have safety meetings, and every day we have somebody new that pops up with COVID, and we've got tracing, so we all wear badges. They're electronic badges that kind of keep track of where you are and who you're with. Obviously, we all wear masks, in the field. Everybody is full-time, 100% wearing masks. It is a little rough anytime it's rough to wear the mask, but in the wintertime, it's rough between the masks and the safety glasses and the fogging up on you, but we're all getting through it. It's just another hurdle, and we're all making it. I guess to end this interview, I'd like to really thank Impact and everything they've done to make this all come together and have me part of this awards. I've never been part of something this big, and to have an organization like Impact and Talk to recognize me, just a regular old iron worker, as somebody that deserves this award. I'm appreciative, and I really do hope to see all of you one day again when we can get past this COVID and any other restrictions that might come our way. And maybe it's not nothing I need to say, but I guess just between you guys, it's one of those things that's kind of, I told my VP, I said, man, this is great and I appreciate it. It is awesome. I said, but now when you show up on site, you know, if by chance they know who you are, and they don't sometimes, but sometimes they do, and they figure, Crash Person of the Year is going to be here. This project's going to be perfect. Everything's going to go great. So I said, hey man, I got a lot of stress on these big jobs, keeping them rolling as smooth as I can. But now that I got a little label on me, it's kind of like, it's going to happen, buddy. You got it.
Hello, my name is Joe Warbeck, and I'm one of the instructors for the Superintendent Training Course. We knew how busy our potential participants could be, so we structured it to be blended learning. It begins with self-study using the Superintendent Training Manual. This maximizes the time for group-based exercises when we meet. To help the participant ensure that the book content is retained, an online course is to be completed while reviewing the book. The participant will need to pass exercises for each module before advancing to the end. When the participant is complete, they are now ready to attend the group-based segment. Since its inception back in May of 2012, the Superintendent Training Course continued to evolve. Ideas and input from over 1,000 participants have shaped it into the success it is today. We have held nearly 50 courses throughout the United States and Canada. The 3-day group course has been attended by supervisors of all levels, journeymen, company owners, estimators, and project managers, and even the brightest of apprentices. This ensemble of talent gives each course the potential of its own uniqueness. When we first started out, we only had one computer per group. Now we encourage every participant to bring a laptop or tablet so we can introduce the paperless projects of today. The groups are given exercises, which revolve around a single project. Much of the learning materials are on paper, but most are electronic documents so the participant can get a taste of the design drawings, specifications, contracts, and schedules being on a tablet or laptop. Some of the exercises were created from these documents, as well as scenarios which would require the need to create problem-solving answers. As the groups collaborate, different problem-solving techniques and approaches begin to be shared, giving the participant a wide variety of tools to use in their own day-to-day activities. We give the participant the boost they need to successfully manage project schedules, information, people, job sites, and safety. We encourage them to build on their communication skills, see the bigger picture, realize they represent not only the union, but more importantly, they represent their employer. By planting these valuable seeds and removing their blinders, we give the participant the potential to be safe and productive, which ultimately results in him or her being profitable. If you'd like more information on the Superintendent Training Course, please contact an Impact representative. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to a little more sober topic, but when you answer this survey question, I want you to keep in mind the amount of value that someone like Tony Palma has and the stress that they're under normal circumstances, let alone the situation we're under today with the pandemic and all the challenges with that. So let me ask this question. How many people do you know in our industry that need help with mental health and or addiction issues? And we put on a Culture of Caring webinar. We've done 3 of them so far, and they're very powerful. I had a good close friend of mine call me after our first one and said, you know, I sat and I watched the webinar and I was weeping the entire time because it was so powerful. So thank you for weighing in, and you can see the results that 40% of all of our attendees, and I said we've got over 730 people registered for this conference, 40% are saying they know 10 or more people that need help. And with that, I'll throw it to Cal Byer and Sean Neely to do the next piece. Very serious piece. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cal Byer. I'm pleased to be with you today for the Ironworkers and Impact Joint Virtual Conference. I'm sorry we can't be together with you in person, but I'm looking forward to speaking about ironworkers in crisis. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by Sean Neely. Sean, say hi to our audience.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Neely. I'm the District Council President of New England, and I'm very happy to be here today. I wish we could all be together. And I'm as excited to be here on this panel with Cal as he is to be here with me. It's a very important subject, and I hope we all get something from this today.
Thank you very much, Sean. It's been a pleasure partnering with the Ironworkers through 2020 and the pandemic. And it's my great pleasure to be part of this organization now as a consultant, helping the Ironworkers and Impact address mental health, suicide prevention, and substance use disorders. Sean and I titled our topic Ironworkers in Crisis because this has been an ongoing crisis that we've been talking about: mental health, substance use disorders, suicide prevention, as we build a culture of caring in the ironworkers and signatory contractors that are members of Impact. Sean and I are very pleased to share our perspectives today. We're going to talk about the perfect storm in construction that's been compounded by the pandemic. We're going to talk about the crisis for ironworkers and why this is so important to Impact. We want to set the table and talk about why this crisis exists. And then Sean and I are going to have a very personal conversation. It'll be a continuation of his October 30th, 2020 webinar, where he talked about personal battle with addiction and the work that Local 7 and Local 37 are doing in New England and Massachusetts. And then we're going to conclude by sharing resources for the district councils, the local unions, and signatory contractors on how they can take these same first steps. So the crisis in ironworking, the pandemic exacerbated the existing issues that construction has had with mental health, substance use, and suicide. Today, we're not going to share a lot of statistics. We're going to have information on the Impact webpage, but the pandemic has worsened mental health. It's created isolation and loneliness. It's compounded stress, anxiety, and depression for many workers and their families. It's contributed to increasing misuse of substances, alcohol, and opioids in particular. And the risk of relapse during this isolation and the lockdown of substance use disorders has unfortunately created a problem with overdoses. And I'm really proud that Sean's going to share some of the solutions that those locals have taken. Many issues in this past year rocking our nation. The civil unrest last year, the recent riots in Washington, D.C., contributed to many veterans and first responders in construction experiencing PTSD, post-traumatic stress, and iron workers from traumatic workplace injuries and other experiences have also had triggering events for post-traumatic stress. And all of these factors combined, unfortunately, have led to iron workers having the highest rate of suicide among all construction trades. Why does this crisis exist? Sean and I want to share a number of factors, but that isolation and loneliness, this continues to be an issue. The pressures that our families face, some of the states where lockdowns occurred, caused real financial pressures. But family pressures, having hybrid school, families being unemployed or underemployed, this compounded a lot of those pressures that families have had. Workplace injuries have contributed to chronic pain, which led to some self-medication, led to some substance misuse. Our industry has the second highest rate of binge or heavy drinking. That's 5 to 7 drinks in a single setting, multiple times a month. 16% of construction workers report substance misuse. And that's what's been self-reported. Many people suspect it's higher. Sean's going to share some of the treatment and recovery options that have been tried and tested and proven to work in Massachusetts. And we need to continue to promote care seeking to break down the stigmas that create barriers to workers finding help and finding recovery when problems exist in their homes or in their personal lives. So Sean, it's time for us to have that personal conversation that we've been looking forward to. I really admire the work that you've done. You've been a personal hero for me and many others. The webinar that you did with Dave Argus of Karis and Karis, Tom Gunning of the BTEA, and you on October 30th touched a lot of people, myself included. I've heard from a lot of iron workers across the country and signatory contractors that were really touched. So Sean, love to have you share your personal story of addiction and how you overcame those personal issues and how you're helping others.
I share my story for a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons is I hope to break down the stigma that surrounds addiction. And the other reason is to make it easier for people to reach out for help. So my story begins where I tied my boots one morning to go to work like I did every other day, not expecting to get hurt and become a drug addict for the next 10 years. It was in the beginning, I could fool people. I could be discreet. I could move around. I could blend in. And in the middle and the end, I couldn't hide it from anybody anymore. Even though I thought I was hiding it from people, the only person in the end that I realized I was fooling was myself. I've gone to 4 different detoxes. I'd like to tell you that every time I went, I really felt in my heart that when I came out of there, I was going to stay sober. I was going to stay clean. And I've come to learn that the reason why I wasn't successful, and that doesn't mean that I was a failure. I just wasn't successful at that point. And I learned from each time. You can take the drug out of your system and not be physically addicted anymore, but the problems are between your ears, in your mind, and your behaviors. And until I changed those thoughts and those behaviors, I just couldn't get sober. So the last time I went away, my wife in front of my 2 kids told me that they couldn't watch me die a little bit every day. And I had heard it before, but it struck me that time. And she told me, go away and get help and really try to do it this time, or just go away. And, I'll be very honest with you. The things that I did under the influence of drugs, I would never ever do when I'm clean and I'm sober. It strips you of every good thing that you have inside of you. I was so honest that people didn't even want to talk to me sometimes, and I became a liar. I wanted to be with my children. I came from a broken home. I wanted to be with my children every minute of the day. I didn't want to miss anything with them. And when I became a drug addict, they came second. The drugs came first. The love of my children, the love of my wife, my job, none of it mattered anymore. The addiction just took total control of me. And it went on for 10 years. And if in the beginning when I got hurt and they gave me the pills, you told me that I'd be addicted for 10 years, I wouldn't have believed you. And I wouldn't have believed that it could ever get as bad as it got. But it did. We spoke on another webinar and I gave a few personal stories about what I had done to my children, what I had done to my wife, how this disease not only affects me, the addict, but everybody in your family. The people that we hurt the most are the people that share our last name. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. But that's what I did. Broken promises, lies, cheating. All these things that I wouldn't do sober, I did them high. Every line in the sand I drew and said that I wouldn't do that, I stepped over that line, and I justified it every time. Until it became, like I said at the end, my wife told me, we can't watch you die a little bit every day. You have to leave. And I had been in and out of my house for a couple of years. And I thought it was okay. I had a beautiful wife and 2 children at home, my own home, a great job, and none of it mattered. In the end, it wasn't even about getting high anymore. It was about what we call getting normal. I just didn't want to be sick. It was the fear of being sick that really, it's an obsession. You get so afraid to be sick that you'll do just about anything to use. And I felt as bad at the end. The emotional pain was as bad at the end. The drugs stopped working. Nothing took me out of that pain, because every time I came back from being high, all my problems were still there, and I compounded them again by what I had done for however long the run was that I was on. So I think I'd like to, move on to when I got sober and how I got sober and the changes that happened inside of me, and why I do what I do today. Because again, I'll say it again, this is very uncomfortable. It really is, to speak to a bunch of strangers about personal things that we're talking about today. And it's a hard conversation that needs to be had.
Sean, but it comes from your heart. It's called lived experience. It's a person who's lived the pain, lived that struggle, who's fought for their sobriety. And you told me also that there was a lot of support along the way. You've referenced your spouse, despite tough love, stood by you, and your children, who you have solid relationships with. You've also mentioned to me friends, and you've let me know about others who were really significant to you. So you didn't handle it alone. And you also had second and multiple chances, right? You had people who were there for you. And that's important for people to know. As dark as that got, you still saw light come through. Some days was dark, some days was glimpses of light, right? Not always in the shadows.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And yours is a very powerful story. So thank you for being brave and courageous. And you're going to help many people by sharing your story.
And that's what I hope. That's what I hope we do. Even if we change one person's mind, or one person comes forward and says that they need help, that's why we do this. The one thing that I did get the last time I went to detox was I got hope. I actually had hope that I didn't have to feel the way I was feeling forever. That I never thought that I would be forgiven by my children or my wife or friends and family. And over the course of time, staying sober, what I thought were my greatest weaknesses have now become my greatest strengths. I can help people with kindness, with compassion, with understanding, because I've been there. And I had iron workers, when I didn't care enough about myself, they cared enough for me to help me get into detox and to get straight. And they've been beside me still to this day. It's just, it seems hard to do, but it's easy to just reach out, and maybe 3 little words can change somebody's life. If somebody's feeling depressed or anxious or going through a substance abuse problem, sometimes just walking up and saying, "Hey, are you okay?" It can make a change in somebody's life, that somebody actually cares. And what we're doing with the Ironworkers through the International, when you hear the general president of the Ironworkers, Eric Dean, talk about this and take this so serious, and bring a guy like Cal Bayer on with all his experience to help us with this, it speaks volumes, I think, to the membership that it's okay to reach out for help. Nobody's here to hurt you. We're here to help. There's so many resources for people. And people just need to know that if it's coming from Eric Dean all the way down to the local union level, that we're here to help. I think that will break down the fear and those barriers that, and it's stigma. And that is the fear, and that is the barrier, that when you do reach out and say to somebody, I'm hurting, or I need help with a substance abuse issue, that they're not going to judge you, that they're not going to turn you away, that they're going to point you in the right direction. And all those things happened for me. And that's what gave me the hope that I could change, that I could be the father I wanted to be. I could be the husband I wanted to be. I could be the iron worker that I wanted to be. And so what I found really was that by opening my mouth and speaking up, which is difficult, it made a change in other people's lives. We started an AA meeting at Local 7, and it kind of changed the culture in Local 7. The business agents and the people at the hall would see, we'd see guys come in and women and show up to our AA meeting, and you'd see them get their 30-day chip, and they're putting weight back on, and they're getting color back in their face, and they're smiling. And just that alone changed the culture in that union hall, that when somebody came in there, they weren't a bad person. They were a sick person that needed help. And I would speak about it at every union meeting about depression, anxiety, substance abuse problems, that there's somebody here to help you and somebody that you can trust. And it's made a big difference at Local 7. No, you can walk into that hall and you can ask anybody in there, I need help. And they won't put your name on the street. They won't judge you. They'll call Modern Assistance Programs, our EAP, who are incredible people who've done so much for our members. And not only our members, but we have the relationship where if there's family friends or iron workers that have lost their insurance coverage, they'll make phone calls and get those folks a bed. I have a great relationship with the Gavin Foundation that we talked about. They have a detox, they have 3 halfway houses, and they have what's called the Cushing House, and it's for 16 to 21-year-old kids. And we work very closely with them. If I need a bed for somebody, I can call them as well, and they'll find us a bed, usually that day. Because I know how frustrating it is I know for myself, when I was making those calls, when I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on in my life, and I would make those calls and they'd say, call back at 5 o'clock, call back tomorrow, you know what? No, that just sent me to like, you know what? I'm trying to do something and nobody's helping me. So that was an excuse to go get high again. And there are no good excuses for going to get high again. And that's why reaching out to those professionals, they have the contacts with the halfway houses. They have the contacts with the detoxes, and it makes it easier for us to get people in.
So Sean, that employee assistance program, the EAP, you're using Modern Assistance. You've had me speak with John Christian. That's a really unique program. It's been built over time. You've also mentioned that nonprofit, the Gavin Foundation. You've also had support from some contractors in New England as well. And there's 2 that you've referenced. You've talked about Karis and Karis, and you've talked about Boss Steel. Can you talk about how they've supported iron workers in bringing people back to work and kind of the crews that they've put together and the process, how that partnership came about? I think people would find that really hopeful.
Yeah, it's amazing what Dave August at Karis and Karis has done. So I spoke about this before. We had such a great relationship with the Gavin Foundation. They've helped so many of our members in so many different ways that at one point I was with Dave and we were talking, and we went to the Gavin Foundation to ask, we needed members. We have a probationary program, and we brought in three guys that had gone through the Gavin Foundation program, who had construction experience, who were vetted, and we brought them in as probationary members for a year. Those 3 members finished our apprentice program. Dave would put them on, give them a job. They treat them like family. They drug test them more often than other companies. And it's a safe place for them to go to work with other sober people. We also have Boss Steel. They're a big steel erector in Boston. And the AA meeting that we have on Monday nights at the Union Hall, I think more than half of those folks work for Boss Steel. And if we have a member that's just getting out of detox and he's struggling and he needs a place to go where he can be safe during the day, Boss Steel will hire him and he'll be in a sober gang with sober guys. And they watch each other's back and they keep each other sober. And it's amazing what they do, because it's really hard when you come back to work out of detox, back into the same routine with the same people. It can be very difficult at times, especially in early sobriety, because all it takes is one bad moment and one bad decision. And it's life or death. It's not just I'm going to lose my job or I'm going to lose my family. You know, we've seen too many people lose their lives. And since October, we've lost 2 people to overdoses and a young woman to suicide in Local 7. So this seems to be every month we're burying another member. And that's why our members are in crisis and they need help. And this culture of caring, I think, is going to go a long way to doing that.
Yeah, it's really powerful. You and I have been working with Kevin Burns with the Ironworkers Chief of Staff, and then Kevin Hilton with Impact CEO. And it's powerful to have that partnership of those 2 gentlemen with the support of General President Dean, but to have so much support throughout the organization, the signatory contractors that are learning in these monthly webinars that are being done. We'll share some information in a few minutes. But Sean, this gives you hope, doesn't it, of what your trade, your ironworking profession, your organization is doing. And look at you in a leadership role, how you've turned your life into serving others, right? It's powerful. It's a great testimonial. So how does that make you feel for the future? We're in a crisis now, but how does that make you feel?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future. I'm like I said earlier, when you hear the general president of the Ironworkers International take this head on, take this serious issue head on, these issues of depression, suicide, anxiety, drug addiction, and not in a way that they want to hurt anybody, in a way that they're saying our members need help. And to the contractors, our members, they're your employees. And if we could all get on the same page, the contractors, the union, to see this as it's a crisis. And there are ways that people can get out of crisis. And it's a lot of times it's just that one, like I said earlier, one guy walking up to somebody and just asking if they're okay. Or one guy coming forward to somebody that they can trust that will point them in the right direction. I see only good things coming from this. We have to have these hard conversations. We have to talk about this, because if we don't keep it up front, it's going to continue to get worse, like it has. And I'm hoping that as we go through this with people like Cal, that we can make a difference. I know we can, even if it's one person at a time. You save one life, you saved one family. You think about the broken families that are out there, you know. And I said it, you know, if you have a family member that's struggling with depression, anxiety, substance abuse, you need to talk to somebody as much as that person that's going through it needs to talk to somebody. Because when I went through it with my son, I actually talked to Modern Assistance and John Christian more than I talked to them when I was going through it, because it was that fear that I couldn't sleep. I was afraid I was going to get that phone call. I was afraid I was going to have to bury my son. And these are the things that our members and their families are going through right now. And just to reach out and be able to get some help, just to get it off your chest. You know, I like to say, I would tell the membership at the union meeting, you know, it's the noise in my head. And when I talk to somebody, does it shut it off? No, not all the time. But does it turn it down? Yes, it turns it down. And just to turn that down a little bit, and to give you a clearer perspective and not be in my mind, but have somebody, a professional, almost do my thinking for me, just to give me a different perspective. It sometimes, or it does all the time, it gets me out of that loop that's playing in my head. And that's why reaching out for help is so important. It can just change your perspective.
And Sean, when we talk about the caring culture, it's putting a safety net around everyone on a job site, right? It's a safety net around everyone in that union hall. It's letting people know that they are a person, and no matter how tough times get, people care and have their back. It's about being that brothers and sisters keeper that you and I talk about. It's a true feeling. You can feel that on a job site. You can feel it in a union local. You can feel it at a contractor, how they care about people. And I've been very fortunate. In 2016, I helped launch that Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. I had helped people with substance use disorders, but never been a specialist. So I worked in the construction industry since 1996, doing safety, health, and wellness, and teaching contractors how to build this in to their safety, health, and wellness programs, and really looked at it as a workforce issue, how to build it into the employment functions, how we could teach people on the benefit side. So when I was working for a contractor in Washington State from 2014 on, the first thing I did as a contractor was go to the 3 signatory unions we partnered with. And I let them know that we were going to be doing safety differently. We were going to talk about safety 24/7, not just getting people home safe at the end of a shift, but getting people back to work safe from home. And that spoke to the unions. We built this great trust, and we started looking out for their employees, and they started trusting us with employees. And there were a lot of powerful lessons. So we've been building some of those resources in for suicide prevention as well. And I think what's been powerful, 2 different walks of life, but our paths have intersected. And I'm really proud to consider you a new friend. Really appreciate you sharing, again, your personal story. And it's just great to know that we're united in this cause to bring hope and to build that caring culture and to help General President Dean, Kevin Burns, Kevin Hilton, and everyone else. Vicki O'Leary is a person I speak highly of often in the ironworkers. She's been a person who's done some great things to drive change. And also folks like Wayne Cressup give me hope that we can tackle this from safety, health, and wellness as well. What else would you like to conclude with? Any last stories that you'd like to share about your journey or to give people hope for that future?
Just the fact that this conversation has taken place, like I said earlier, gives me great hope. I know in the past, people were just too afraid to step forward and ask for help because they thought they were going to be not going to go to work, that they were going to be labeled a drug addict or a drunk, or the stigma that's involved. I think that this is breaking down barriers. It's like I mentioned earlier, Cal, it's like taking one brick. Every time we talk, every time we do this, every time somebody from our leadership steps up and says something, it's like taking one more brick out of the wall. To take that wall down, that will give people the hope that was given to me, that I can open up and I can ask somebody for help, and I'm going to get that help. And I'm not going to be judged. And it's really good to know that this is the direction that we're taking, that we're there and we are our brothers and sisters keepers. Because without my brothers and sisters, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I know I wouldn't be sitting here today. And without the brothers and sisters that are at our AA meeting, that are active in recovery, without our EAP, without the Gavin Foundation, we'd be burying more people. And we'd have more people in crisis. And the sooner that people, if you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious, the sooner you get to talk to somebody, because I know for a lot of people that suffer from depression and anxiety, they self-medicate, and it can turn into alcoholism or addiction. So the sooner that we can get people to talk to somebody and seek help, and that's what I see as hopeful, is that we're doing that right now, so that it doesn't become a full-blown addiction and worst, a suicide.
Sean and I wanted to share some of the resources that are now posted on the Impact website. The first one is suicide prevention resources. We'll be talking with Kevin Burns and Kevin Hilton about putting additional resources for opioids and addiction as well. It's available at this link. Secondly, shout out to the ironworkers, Kevin Burns, putting together crisis strategy plans for both local unions and signatory contractors. These are foldouts that provide a lot of information in a condensed guide, very useful resources. Please download those. There's educational webinars archived now on the website. You'll see the one Sean and others did on October 30th, one that I did on November 19th of 2020, and recently January 14th. There are other webinars archived. We also wanted to leave information for USA and Canada crisis hotlines, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255, and crisis text line. You can type or text help to 741-741. In Canada, crisis text line has the same contact info, but for mental health and crisis services in Canada, use Crisis Services Canada 833-456-4566. Please share that information with your family members and your union members. The last item that we'd like to highlight is the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. There's toolbox talks, there's posters in English and in Spanish, and other resources available. www.preventconstructionsuicide.com. Sean and I are going to conclude with our contact information. Sean, any closing comment?
Thank you for being here and for listening to us and for bringing this topic to the forefront.
If you need to get a hold of Sean, you can contact him at his email or his cell phone. Likewise for me, if I can help you help others, don't hesitate to call. Thank you very much, ironworkers. Thank you for Impact. Sean and I appreciated this conversation. It's time to take action. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patrick Willard, and I am the owner of CCAS, a small construction consulting company out in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I am an engineer by trade, and I've been working with ironworkers for over 30 years. I am one of the developers and the instructors for the fundamental of cost estimating and bidding for beginners. The purpose of this 5-day or week-long course is to help you establish a system for developing a methodology for takeoffs, developing a cost estimate, or in preparing a bid submission. This class is taught at a fundamental level. It is really intended for beginners or novice estimators. The class is constructed in a series of incremental steps, such as finding bid opportunities, reviewing the bid documentation and requirements, developing or setting up your estimating style with your labor rates and the different cost categories that go into an estimate. Then we also give you quantity takeoff basics to help you take off stuff and items that you find on drawings. As well, we want you to review and know what to review on fabricator quotes to determine the information you need. One of the key steps in this class is to actually get the students or the participants to do an actual bid from an actual project, where you're going to do your takeoffs, you're going to find the equipment, your general conditions, and even submit a bid. We're not going to leave you in the dark, because one of the things that we do is establishing a system for you to help you do a secondary review to make sure that you don't forget anything. Finally, you do the actual bid submittal with bid opening and bid results like you would see in a public bid. Finally, this course also offers an overview and tutorials on some of the technology platform you might encounter in real life, such as Bluebeam's e-takeoff, or even some specialized systems like the Steel Wizard bid erection system. I hope you join us for this exciting and very useful class that is offered by Impact. Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining back with us. We're going to jump right into another survey before we get started with the second half, abbreviated half of the second part of our first day. So we always talk about are contractors and the ironworkers working together to gain market share. You've heard that throughout many, many impact conferences and other places. Let me ask you how much market share you gained in 2020. And the question is, grab your clickers or your mouse. How many industrial plants, facilities did you work in for the first time in 2020? So you never worked there before, hadn't worked there in a long, long time. How many facilities, whether you're a contractor or local union leader, did you get into for the first time in 2020? And this is a cue up, as you probably already surmised, for the next portion of the program. So if we look over at the results, obviously a big part of all of our jobs are us getting in places where we aren't. And unfortunately, 45% said they didn't get in any new plants. 44% said 1 to 3, 11% said 4 to 7, and only 1% said more than 7. So let's talk about getting iron workers and their contractors in places where they aren't right now.
Good afternoon or good morning. Wish I was doing this in person with you and the team we have here with us that's going to be doing this video presentation. You know, we're here to talk about Opportunities One, Ironworkers, Business Development, Salesforce, what we've been up to with this business called North American Contractor Link. I'm Jim O'Shue. I'm a business consultant advisor that came into the picture in 2017 to help Impact think through how do we do a better job standing up our own business development process and getting our iron workers to work where they're not today. How do we win that share? So that's what this conversation is going to be about. I'm pumped up that we've got a great panel with us. And what I'm going to do now is flip this over to a guy named Tim Spino, who joined us. Tim's got a great depth of experience. He's been a hell of a addition to the team. And he's going to introduce himself. We'll get the panel to introduce himself, and then we'll jump into some content and we'll get going here. So thank you.
Great. Hey, thanks, Jim. Hey, everyone. My name is Tim Spino. I serve as the business developer coach or the sales coach with the guys converting these iron workers to business developers. And I look forward to talking with you in this panel. And I'm going to go through the group here that you're going to hear from a little bit later. Let's start with Rich Danko, if you can introduce yourself.
Good day, all. Rich Danko. I'm out of Local 3, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I cover the Pittsburgh and the Wheeling market areas. I've been with the program since 2017, and looking forward to talking with you guys.
Great. Benji.
Yeah, Benji Swanson. I'm the business manager out of Local 549, Wheeling, West Virginia. Third generation iron worker, and I've been with this since the beginning in 17. Look forward to talking today.
Great. Brian.
Brian Putman from Local 3, Pittsburgh. I'm with Somerset Steel. Been doing business development for them for approximately 4 years.
Great. And Gabe.
Gabe Broadwater, Somerset Steel out of Boswell, PA. Ironworkers Local 3. And I've been with Somerset for 20 years as field superintendent.
Good deal. And I think, Tim, I think that's the panel. So I'm going to hop into a couple of slides here, guys. And my goal here, and I'm going to go really quick so we can get to this discussion, which I think is going to be the most informative part of our time together. But I want to give you an idea of what this thing's all about, right? And it was interesting in 2017, I flew up to DC, I met with Kevin Hilton, talked to a bunch of guys, talked to the guys that were already working in biz dev on this effort. And it became completely obvious that the only thing that mattered was how do we put iron workers to work where they are not? So everything we do, every decision we make, we always hold that decision and evaluation up against, if we make that effort, we make that change, we make that investment, will it achieve this goal? Will we put our workers where they're not at today? So the story I'm going to lay out for you here in a couple of slides is, how did we get started? What did we do in 2017? What did we learn? And ultimately, I'm going to show you the results of 2020, which give us a ton of confidence, man, that we're on the right track and we're going to accomplish this goal. And fast forward a few years from now, with everybody's help, we're gonna replace the competition where we're not at today. So back in 2017, when I came on board, and Rich, I actually met Rich right away. The organization was called Great Lakes Business Development. It originated out of the Great Lakes region, thus the name. And a couple of things that were pretty interesting in terms of that time we spent in 2017 going into 2018. It was interesting in discussions that I was always being challenged by, whether it was ironworkers, management, people outside the industry saying, wait a minute, whoa, hit the brakes. You're going to build a business development team taking ironworkers out of the field and you're going to train them up and run a process for business development? You know, have you lost your mind? That isn't going to work. We were challenged a bunch in the beginning. And the funny and ironic thing, I guess it's more ironic, is that on that original team, all iron workers, it was one gentleman who was a great guy. However, he wasn't an iron worker. He was a professional business developer from, you know, brands like Verizon and Google and the like. And you know what? That guy is not with us anymore. But every single iron worker that started in this process in 2017 and subsequently came on board, they're still here. And you know what? They kick ass. They're fantastic. They're great biz dev guys. And why is that? We can teach and we can work on the process of business development and we can get in those doors, but we need that skill in those doors, because when they're in the doors, we need guys like Glenn Jacks who can talk about conveyors. We need guys like Rich Danko, who's taught me a ton of things over the last couple of years, but we need that expertise. So this process is, how do we get those guys, those ambassadors of our business, into those doorways? So we had to change process. We had to think about technology. We had to think about how we were training them and go at it differently. And in 2019, we did. And in 2019, we made some huge shifts, right? We went from Great Lakes Business Development to North American Contractor Link. Why? Well, Great Lakes Business Development didn't really say much at all about what the organization was about. So we always had to explain, well, what the hell is this thing? And it really didn't just express the benefit. We are here to connect industrial facilities to great contractors. That's our mission.
And Jim, I'd like to just add real quick, you know,
Absolutely,
one of the
Tim.
reasons why switching to North American Contractor Link brand is, you know, right now, you know, we're 9 BD guys strong, and we have, you know, guys in, you know, Alabama and Savannah, Georgia, Atlanta, you know, so North American Contractor Link gives us a brand to expand this program across, you know, North America.
Absolutely. And you know, fast forward, guys, right down the road, when we're throughout the country, we're up north in Canada, you know, this thing has power. This thing's going to kick butt. We also re-engineered everything. We put Salesforce in, and if you're not familiar with Salesforce, it's a technology, a tool we use, which keeps everyone on track. It helps organize everything we do. It gives us transparency. Tim's going to speak a bit to that here in a minute. So again, 2017, 2018, bit of a rough start, kind of just said, all right, guys, go out there and go get some business. We said, whoa, let's hit the brakes. Let's reorganize this thing. Let's think about training, tools, how we approach the business. And then, you know what, in 2020, we kicked ass. We really jumped in there and we took work from the competition. You know what, we're doing it profitably. One of the challenges I had coming in was, look at this business like a private enterprise, like I've always done in building businesses, and say, you know what, regardless of how the revenue comes in and where it flows, is it smart? Can it be done and done where it makes money? And you know what? It does, man. It makes money, and it's going to continue, and it's going to get better. So I'm going to share with you a bit of a dashboard here on how we wrapped up 2020. And then we're going to jump into quickly get into our panel, which I think will be a lot more interesting. But you know what, man? We replaced the competition in 59 facilities. So there's now 59 facilities, industrial facilities, that, you know what, they were using the competition. They're using our contractors now. And when they're using our contractors, it's not just once, 106 repeat projects in 2020. So of our facilities that are using us, that come to us, we get our contractors in there, they kick butt, they're quality, they're on time, on budget, solve problems, they come back. So 59 new facilities, 106 repeat projects. We did that on an investment of about $500,000. Not huge, but not small either, right? And again, back to that mission. We do everything and say, does that dollar being spent help us get our guys into jobs, into work? And it does. And so this year we put 43,503 hours on the scoreboard, if you will, of iron worker hours where we weren't before, taking that from the competition. We're getting repeat projects. One interesting note, and we didn't really think about this. Actually, I think Rich might have gave me a hard time in 2017, 18 going, it's not just going to be iron worker hours. It's going to be other trades. And you know what it is. So on top of those 43,000 iron worker hours, we actually booked about 65,000 hours in total multi-trade that go to our contractors that are multi-trade. So it stays in the family, so to speak. But again, it's just a big indicator of being on the right track. And back again, where I said, our challenge and my challenge specifically was, how do we do this profitably? We had to figure out a way to think about this, right, from a profit and an ROI perspective. So off those 43,000 hours, when we think about wages and benefits, right, and we use, $50-$55 an hour, it can vary depending on the region, but assuming that, make that assumption, we're generating about 2.3 million in wages and benefits, right? So 550 grand in, generating 2.3 wages and benefits. But we wanted to look at it another way, right? Maybe like a traditional business, like if we were the contractor actually taking in that revenue, we just want to make sure it's the right thing. We're doing this judiciously with our money, right? So 63,000 hours, use $125 an hour, 150. I know it can all vary, but let's just say off all that business, we're generating 9.5 million in revenue. So again, $500,000 investment, 9.5 million in top line revenue. What does that look like from a return on investment?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
And Jim, what I was going to say is, as you take a look at these are just 2020 numbers.
Yep.
The important thing is a lot of this business, this repeat business, is going to come back to us in 2021, 2022, all the way to 2030. Once our contractors are in there, it becomes a vending machine of hours and revenue for our contractors.
Absolutely. And running those numbers out, right, guys? So ROI, and it's kind of a number we actually sometimes don't even want to talk about because it's kind of ridiculous, right? 335% return. But the number is the number. $500,000 in, 2.3 million on wages and benefits. And then if we wanted to take a look at it from contractor revenue, and we could argue all day long around what is the margin we make in this business. We're going to use 10%. Some a little higher, some a little lower, but even off 10%, right, of that 9.5 million, if we're making $1 million in contribution margin profit, right, and then we pay out the cost to generate that profit where we didn't have it before, we didn't have that business, we made 73% on our money, right, $500,000 in, and we're generating a tremendous amount more in terms of return. Tim was speaking a bit about how this continues to get better. One thing I'd point out is the way this is engineered and built, that $500,000 to run this program is a relatively predictable, not completely flat as we add markets and add advisors and more contractors, but it's a centralized operation. And so those dollars won't grow incrementally, but our revenues will, our hours will, our productivity will. So that ROI from this day forward can only get better in my humble opinion. And, that's where we're headed. So wanted to give you a bit of history when we get to the panel, really give you an idea that, we've got this thing dialed in. And we're ready to really go from where it's been chugging along in kind of a test bed, a laboratory for a couple of years and say, this thing is ready. We need to go build it. And with that, I'm going to ask Tim to spend a few minutes and really just hit quickly on people, process, and technology and kind of what we do to make this stuff work.
Yeah. And this is where, Jim and I tag team this quite a bit from developing the program, or really we talk about the engine, and the engine is BD, Business Development North American Contractor Link engine. It does have 3 pillars, and we developed things off of IIR. I'll tell you about Salesforce. Salesforce is probably one of the key technology pieces that we leverage in order to generate transparency, generate a operating rhythm, if you will. And I would tell you, in working with the guys from a Salesforce.com, they're probably on Salesforce as much, if not more, than their email accounts. Everything that we do is through Salesforce. It's what's unbelievable, and we'd love to come to your local and talk to you a little bit about how we leverage Salesforce. Is when we take a look at an opportunity that we're chasing, we get to see everybody that's involved. We get to see literally every single email that's associated with that facility. Every phone call is logged. It's an unbelievable tool, and the reason why Jim is able to talk about all those numbers is because everything is documented in Salesforce. And the other piece is when we report and close a win. Let's say we close a facility, we close a project and a win. Part of the technology integrating with the process is a win is not certified until we get third-party documentation from someone other than our BD reps that win generated this many ironworker hours and this much revenue for the contractor. And we get the documentation from sometimes even the bid and RFPs that are submitted. We every single win, every single ironworker hour needs to be documented into Salesforce. So to back up a little bit though, based on the process, we pride ourselves, and we try to. Our goal is to be completely pure on this. Is when our guys are targeting a facility, a lot of the upfront work is to make sure there is not another signatory ironworker contractor in that facility. So, we will do a lot of research. We'll ask around. We'll just make sure that when we go in and we're starting to build a relationship and put the time in to develop a relationship with those decision makers at a facility, we're doing all that work for naught. If there's another signatory ironworker contractor there. So that's a big piece of the process on the front end. And then in between getting to the actual identifying the project and going to try to win it and connect one of our contractors, it's all about how can we get our guys to literally get a walkthrough with that facility with a decision maker, whether it's a plant manager, maintenance manager, engineering manager. So we have a very specific process. At any point in time, we can go into Salesforce and see where we are in a process. Are we in stage 1 of the sales process with with Nucor or an account like that, or are we in the step 4? And we were able to forecast, and Jim will talk about that a little bit later. Salesforce not only reports the lagging indicator of what we've been able to generate. Salesforce actually can report what our forecast and what we're going to hit at the end of the year. So right now, as you all are watching this, we can actually forecast what number we're going to achieve by December 31st, based on using Salesforce and understanding the process and what the guys have been able to deliver. And then I like to end with the people side of it, because it is the most important thing. Is you give the right tools and the right technology and the right that's the technology piece, but then the process, you give the right knowledge, skills, and ability. At the end of the day, you have to have the right people. And this is where I think this program has really hit its stride, is because converting these ironworkers to business developers, I tell you, if we can get our guys in a walkthrough with a facility, with a decision maker, 90% of the time, we're able to connect that facility with one of our signatory contractors. It is unbelievable, because they know the applications, they know the needs, they're looking around the plant. And I would tell you, they love it. they love going into a plant and looking at all the opportunities of how they can solve the problems with that facility. And that's where converting these iron workers, to BD guys using the technology and the process and the engine that we've created, that's why this thing works. And I would tell you, if anyone were to come to me and say, hey, I got this, the best business developer that you can hire for this program, I would pass 10 times out of 10, because the secret sauce of this one is converting an iron worker who has the knowledge, skills, and ability to be able to solve problems for our facilities and the decision makers. That's where this thing is really differentiated. And that's why this thing is going to grow and be more successful, is because of that people piece.
Hey, Tim, thank you for that. And actually a pretty terrific segue, because like I opened with, guys, we wanted to give you kind of a sense of, a couple of outsiders that came in here in 2017 and kind of picked up that torch with a lot of your leadership and all of you, and said, you know what, we're going to go compete like hell and win business. Why don't we get to the folks that are actually doing that? So what we're going to do now, and I'll help moderate this a bit, is kind of get us kicked off here and ask our panel here a couple of questions. And actually what I'm going to do is throw this first question over to Rich Danko. And Rich, it's been a pleasure, man, working with you. But again, you heard me talk about it. I wasn't a skeptic, but man, there was people telling me this isn't going to work. So talk to us a bit about what has it been like, man? What was that process? How did that feel going from, out in the field to being a biz dev guy?
Thanks, Jim. So there was a couple main things that started, but it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge in the beginning. Coming out of the construction industry, working out in the field for 20 plus years, you were around people all the time. Whether it was, if you were in the gang, you had a buddy, you had a group of guys that you were working with on a day-to-day basis, that you were getting projects and completing them. General foreman, you were still working with the guys around those people on a day-to-day basis. Going into this business development job, suddenly you're working by yourself. You don't have a buddy to turn around to, nobody else with you. So getting yourself more self-motivated to carry yourself through your day was a challenge at first. And the more you get into it, the more you do. And it's the same as iron working. You just put your head down and you go to work. Focus on the task at hand, and that was bringing iron worker hours into our market share. One of the second parts that was a little bit different was the results at the end of the day. Working out in the field, like I said, at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, you can turn around and look over your shoulder and you see the project progress from, a large hole in the ground, foundation, buildings, the sidewalls, curtain wall, metal roofs, the whole process of a building going up, or a project in the mill getting completed. You can see that at the end of the day. With the business development side, sometimes you don't see direct results for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even up to a year before you actually can record a project as a win. In the beginning, we started out just doing a lot of cold calling and trying to get in touch with the decision makers at these facilities. It might take 3 to 6 months before you can even get a meeting with someone. Then once you do, to get them to trust you to give you a project, to bring a contractor in, and then you bring the contractor in, and that's when they take over and show them what they can do. By the time you get an iron worker there, like I said, it could be up to a year. You may get lucky and something may happen. You might, get a good one, and it happens in 3 weeks. So those were a couple of the struggles, coming out of the field as an iron worker, getting into a business development role. But it's been going good.
Yeah, you know what, Rich, your results kind of speak for themselves. I know you're a discreet kind of prideful guy and don't boast, but you've had a hell of a year, and from 2017, all that hard work and time on the phones and learning IIR and Salesforce have really paid off. So it's much appreciated.
Yeah, I just like to add before we go to the next one is, Rich in 2020 only, clocked about close to 17,000 ironworker hours by himself based on projects delivering into the system, delivering to the contractor. So you had a great year, Rich.
Thanks, guys.
Well played. Hey, Benji, and thanks, Benji, so much for being here and even the support over the years, and quite honestly, the honest feedback that we get from our business manager partners. So it's much appreciated. Encourage it here as well. Like go unhinged, if you will. But talk to us a bit about how the program's impacted your local. But we're really curious. What were your impressions, man? What did you think of this thing back in 2017, 18, and how's it come along?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I was first approached with the idea, I thought it was a fabulous idea. My concerns were, who are we going to get to man this and be the salesman? And my other concern was, who's going to be the boss over this whole program? And those ended up being the two big struggles. We hired, like you alluded to earlier, we hired professional salesmen, we hired iron workers, tried to teach professional salesmen how to speak ironworker language, if you will. We tried to teach iron workers how to sell, and it was a struggle at first, but it quickly became apparent that teaching an iron worker how to sell was much easier than teaching a salesman our language as iron workers. So that was my first concern. My second concern was, who's going to be the boss of this? Impact's got their fingers in it, so to speak. Great Lake District Council was the guinea pig, if you will. The general organizers, president of that council, had his fingers in it. And the Great Lakes is made up of 7 different locals. So all those business managers, of course, want their fingers in it. So who is ultimately going to be the boss? And I think Jim and Tim, you guys were the 3rd or 4th maybe at your positions since it all began. And ultimately it comes down to wherever that business development man is working, whatever local, that business manager directs him what to do and is kind of the boss, so to speak. If I don't want him in a plant, I tell him not to go there. If I want him to check this out, I tell him to go there. And Rich and I have a very open communication line, and he calls and asks me about plants. I'll call and ask him what he knows about a plant. So at the end of the day, my second concern was resolved quite quickly when it was given the responsibility of the business managers to kind of direct the BD guy on where to work in his territory.
Yep, absolutely. It's changed quite a bit, right, Benji? It's come a long way, huh?
I never gave up on the idea because I liked it from day one, but there was days I wasn't sure he was ever going to get through it or not. It just happened, but all for the better.
And Benji, you actually bring up a great point, that the collaboration between, we call them customer solution advisors. So we always, Rich Danko, that's his title, customer solutions advisor. And, the most important thing is that collaboration. What we've learned is every single facility has a different story, has a different background, has a different reason why they're not employing ironworkers today, and why they may not be employing ironworkers in the future. And the thing is each facility, because they're so different, the collaboration between Rich and you is so important, right? Why put a year's worth of work, sometimes even 2 years, Rich, into a facility without understanding, Benji, where you stand, right? Where, what the history was, what the story was, who the competition is in that facility, right? Let's say if there's a non-ironworker contractor in that facility, but you're trying to organize them in a big way, and we go and try to displace them completely, right? That makes your job harder. So that collaboration is so important in the front end. And I think that's what we learned too, is to make sure that before we set our targets and put these opportunities and facilities in our sales funnel, is that you and Rich need to be just dialed in together on who you're going after, and that's really worked well.
Yeah, and to add to that just a little bit, when I came here as business manager, there were certain plants in my area that we would historically been told, don't even approach them, don't waste your time, you're never going to get in there. They don't work iron workers, or all kind of vast array of stories. What we were told, funny, a lot of the places, once Rich got into them, were quickly to say, we've never been approached by you guys. We didn't know about you guys. So I've learned a lot about some of the facilities in my own territory just by having Rich approach the people, and a lot of them are open to us.
And just to add on to that, I worked out of the Pittsburgh market for most of my career, was very familiar with a lot of the places in our jurisdiction. Grew up working with the business managers, business agents, had a good feel for my own home local. And when I was asked to take over, the marketing part for 549 Benji's territory, in my career, I might have worked 3 days down in that local. So I didn't have an idea of where his people were working, where they were working, until you sit down and then you start talking about, okay, well, we're good in these areas, we're not good in these areas. So there needs to be that good line of communication between the business manager and the developer, just to keep on clear, so you don't go in for, say, stepping on someone's toes where you already have people working. The last thing you want to do is, bring another contractor into a facility where there's been a contractor working for 4 years. That's not what we want to do. We want to get into the facilities where we haven't been working.
Nope, absolutely, man, absolutely. And one more for Rich, and then Gabe and Brian, we haven't forgotten about you. Hang in there. We're coming your way. Rich, I think we've heard a bit from you and Benji, and I think Tim alluded to the benefit of being an iron worker. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? I mean, what do you think that's helped you with? I know Glenn Jackson, his conveyor background, I mean, there's a lot of expertise there, but yeah, speak to that a bit for us.
So working in the field for, 20 some plus years, was on a different wide variety of projects. You get to learn what's out there, what you can do, what the iron workers do. Your buddy iron workers that you grow, are friends with, meet with, hang out, parties, friends. You hear projects that they're on, you learn about the industry, because one thing iron workers like to do is they love to talk about ironworking, projects they've done, built, and so forth. So when you go in to talk to a customer and they start talking about moving a couple pieces of machinery around in the plant, you can start to look and see, the first thing that I do when they say we want to move machinery around, I start looking for headroom. Can you get a crane in here? Are you going to be able to, do you have an overhead crane in the building? How are you going to move this piece of machinery from the north end of the plant to the south end of the plant? And then you can start coming up with solutions, giving them some ideas so you know what they're looking for. You understand what their projects are, and once you understand what their projects are, you can help them come up with a solution, what they want to do, and then you know what kind of contractor you want to bring into the facility. If it's machinery moving, the contractors in your area that specialize in, that's who you want to put in front of them. Some other things on projects, let's just say it would be a small welding repair. Well, you want to bring in a small company that's going to be the right fit for that project, compared to if they need they're planning on putting in a addition on or a pre-engineered building. You want to bring them a contractor that maybe do the design build for them. And coming from the field, who those contractors are, the contractors that work in those areas that can come in and be the best fit for that project.
Yeah, Rich, I think echoing what you say there, right, is, we hear it from our customers. We hear the impact that our solution advisors have and our contractors have, on their situations in the plants and the facilities. And so I think that marriage, if you will, of the background of the advisors, the expertise and the training, and of our contractors, and Benji, to your point, the integration and kind of that insight and from the local makes this whole thing work, in those regions. So that cooperation is key. Flipping this over to Brian and to Gabe, talk to us a bit about, I think you did some intros, maybe, what you're doing at Somerset Steel, but share some of the stories, even the bad ones, the embarrassing ones about Rich and working with them. Those are always good to hear. And about, what are your thoughts on the future work with some of these facilities that you're getting into? Because we know that repeat business is important.
Actually, Rich and I have a background that probably goes back to probably 10 years or so, doesn't it, Rich? We did a project we worked together out in a project in Pittsburgh. That's first I ever worked around Rich. We worked well together. He was steward on the job for me. We had a couple hiccups as far as the project itself. We got through them. Rich always got me good guys to do the jobs I needed done. And like I said, we hit it off from, I believe, first day, and that continues on through the business development side of it now. Rich will give me a call, say, hey, I got a project, you got a customer that wants to do this. I figured it would be a good fit for your company. You interested? And usually we'll work through the details in that, and I'll go from there. He'll do an introduction via email or a phone call to the customer, and then I'll take it from there, setting up a meeting with them to look over the project, which I'll take. One of our superintendents, Gabe, would be one of them. We have a couple others that, depending what area that it's in, is who I'll ask to go along. I'll introduce our superintendent to the customer. We walk through the project, and then it goes from there. It basically blossoms from there, I would call it. Because a couple places we've been in, that scenario has worked out, and they go directly to Gabe right now, contact him with whatever projects they may have, no matter how small or how large. It has worked really well. I don't see where it'll stop either.
Brian, that's a good point. The piece on the small and the large side. What I think we knew when we started targeting facilities that it would be a slightly different beast in terms of how we approach it. The smalls, as we kind of call them, right? The small deals, the small, blower fan here, et cetera. But what we learned quickly was that by pursuing those and just getting our contractors, getting you guys in front of those facility managers, those engineers, that it led to incrementally more smalls here and there, but then there's a few larger ones, and it just starts to build. And that business evergreens because it keeps coming back. So once we boot that competition out there, taking one of those small deals, they keep coming back to us. Gabe, any thoughts on that? I heard your reference there a bit with customers coming back to you, so I'd love to get your perspective.
Yeah, it's I haven't met Rich. He calls a lot, and he has put us on some good leads. And I'd like to echo what Jim said. It's getting us through that front gate and into the front door, meeting these people, and that's what Rich has done, and it's been successful at a few plants. And it's getting your foot in the door, doing good work, and it's not only led to ironworker hours, but other trades as well. And it's just today there's more emails flowing in from that customer. So it's been a good relationship with Rich and everybody on that end.
Hey Gabe, do you so once you get into a customer, get into a project, do you feel once you're in there, Somerset's in there, what's the likelihood of you getting work while you're there, just showing up? What's the likelihood of getting that follow-up project?
Very good. I mean, it's when you're in there, and you got to have the right guys, of course. I mean, who to take in there and what caliber job it is, and it's a 3-day job turns into a 2-week job, or it's those repetitious calls, shutdowns, even weekends, emergencies. It's nonstop, and like I say, it's bringing the right people in and the right contractor.
Yeah, and Oshu, Jim, the one of the things that we talk about, and Gabe, it's a really good point, is I tell you, when we first go in, I mean, our contractor is a new contractor, has never been into that plant, or it's been a long while for whatever reason. And, we have learned, I mean, a plant manager or a decision maker is not going to say, oh, don't know these guys. Hey, let me put them on my shutdown, my December shutdown, or July summer shutdown. We all know it doesn't work that way. It's, hey, let me try them out on this catwalk. Let me try them out on this, this machinery, move. And, what we tell the guys and what we had to set expectations is the small wins are the most important. I mean, I think some people have said, you don't get an oak tree until you plant an acorn. Right. And that's exactly what this is. We're going in territory we've never been or haven't been there for a while. They're kicking the tires on us. We got to earn that right. I mean, I tell you, you get a 100 iron worker job, we celebrate that because we know that 100 iron worker job is going to turn into 1,000 iron workers and beyond later on once they prove themselves. And, so the expectations, and, this is one thing we worked with Benji and the business managers, is saying, hey, it takes a while for this stuff to hit. And then once we hit, it's small, it's small. And we love miscellaneous steel. Miscellaneous steel is great. But, and because we know that we have a foot in the door, and we know every time their trucks or people are in the plant, something else will come their way. And that's our job, is just to get you in. And then once you get in and you earn it, the iron workers will follow. The iron worker hours.
Right. And not only that, I mean, Brian does a great job, business development, but he's a contractor, and, they get probably 1,000 calls a day from local contractors, whatever it be. I think going through a certain hall or this program, it's that single guy. It's not a huge company, a small company that's been trying to get in. They have their companies and they try and stay with that. But this has been a success for on our end, for sure.
And I'd just like to add one thing into here. What you're hearing or lack of hearing is you're not hearing us talk about the facilities that we're working in. The contractors know that I work with all the contractors in our area. There's nothing to hide there. But once we get a relationship at a facility, and that's why, you're hearing Gabe talk about the facility, the plant. Once I get a contractor in somewhere, we don't share that. It's discreet. It's kept it's a private relationship between myself, the contractor, and the manager when we get into these places. So we're not trying to take people out of places and put other contractors in there. There's a trust between us that we have grown throughout the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Hey, Gabe, I think Rich needs to stop by when COVID's over and owes you a coffee and donuts or something.
I think you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Rich, we'll see if we can find a budget for donuts and coffee this year. Hey, I think we're kind of bumping up against the time, guys. I got a couple of quick kind of closing questions, and then I'll close out our discussion here. This is really going over to Rich and to Benji, and just Rich and really Benji as well. When you think about the future, what's next with this? How do you think about that? And then Benji, at the very end of this, if you could just close out, if you were speaking to a few business managers, what are some of the finer points and things you would say, hey, just keep this in mind. So Rich, why don't you take that first one?
So in the beginning, the program started out, it was a little bit rough. 3 steps forward, 5 steps backwards, 5 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. And it's grown. It's grown tremendously with your help, Tim's help, Impact, putting the investment into us to see if we could do this program. And it's working. We can see that it's working. And what I see happening in the future is, and it's starting to get that way now. We're starting to get over that hump, and I think it's going to keep getting better and better. Is before, nobody knew who we were. We didn't have a brand. We didn't have a market. Now we're out there. People know who we are. People are talking about us. We're getting referrals from owners to go to other places. And what we want is we want the people to be talking about us, to where maybe we're not cold calling as much as we were in the beginning, and owners and managers are calling us up. Maybe we're the buzz on the block. We're in an industrial park. We're doing some work for a facility. The facility across the street asked them, hey, who's that contractor? Looks like they did a good job for you. Well, you know what? They did a great job for us. But I found them through, this North American Contractor link. This guy come in, told us about all the contractors, how they could help. And, maybe you should get a hold of them, and they can bring you, depending on what your project is, they'll bring in the perfect contractor to help you out. So instead of us doing the calling, I think the goal here is to just keep this moving forward and, having the owners reaching out to call us.
Rich, I would like to add to that. So when you first started, even the first year, how many people actually called you, right? Versus them just replying to your cold calls and your your email.
Not many.
Right. Are you starting to see now, a few years into it, that you're now getting, people are reaching out to you, decision makers for reaching out to you even now?
Yes, it's starting to happen. Like I said, we're starting to get up to that hill, and I see us getting to the top of it very soon, to where it'll be, I don't want to say they'll be calling more than we're calling, but it'll be an equal share where, we're still reaching out to places that we never have. And, there'll be other places that'll be calling in because they hear about us. There's going to be a little bit of a buzz out there about North American Contractor Link.
And I'd like to add this. One of the things that we're working with the guys, being the sales coach, which is has been awesome, very rewarding, is, going into these and teaching the guys from, when they're interacting with the facility decision maker, we tell them, we're your easy button, right? You're trying to, get production out the door, and you go to work, and there's 100 different reasons why, you can't get production out the door that day. And, there's emergencies, people didn't show up, and we've been there. We see these maintenance managers. I mean, they got, bags under their eyes. I mean, they're overworked, right? And underappreciated. And we just say, hey, we're an easy button. Just, if you need anything, you got an emergency, you got a shutdown, just call us. And what we've told the guys too, and this is how we got into a little bit of putting some other trades to work, is, hey, if a facility calls us and they need snow removal, we're going to get them a snow removal contractor, right? Because every time they call us, that's what this is all about. If they can call us and we're their easy button, eventually they're going to call us and they're going to be needing our contractors and putting our iron workers to work. So when they call us, the answer is within reason. Yeah, we can get that for you. And if it's snow removal or watering their plants, we'll get it done, because we know we want that facility decision maker to trust us, call us first, and call us often. So we're really working on that big time now, Jim, and that's the stage that we're in. So anyway, back to you, Jim.
No doubt. And it's all, and Benji, I want you to close us out here, but Rich, appreciate the reference to, myself and Tim, but I will say this to everybody on this panel and everybody that's part of this thing. I mean, you guys do this. The advisors get out there, the business managers get involved, the contractors close the deals, it deliver, they call back to you all. And you know what? Golf course, bar, wherever they're hanging out, they hang out with other engineers, other supervisors, they're referencing what they're doing, how they're doing it. And I think that's why that phone is starting to ring. It's all you guys here on this panel, and to all the guys that are part of this, the other advisors and other contractors, it's because of them. So Benji,
sure.
Words of wisdom for some business managers out there, my friend.
I would suggest to all the business managers out there, give it a shot. What do you got to lose? A little bit of time, and what you got to gain is market share and more man hours. But it's all comes down to communication, whether it be communicating with Impact, with your district council, with the other business managers in your district council, or most importantly, your BD guys. Communications and patience, it's proven that it pays off here in the Great Lakes. And by all means, feel free to reach out to me or any other business manager in the Great Lakes District Council and ask them. We all agree it's successful and it's proven.
Very good. Hey, Tim, I'm going to close this out here. Any last thoughts on your end, or are you good?
Yeah, I have some last thoughts, and we can edit this out, if we're running over time, right? But here's one thing Benji said earlier. It's and we've learned this, right? It is so much easier to teach an iron worker business development skills and approaches than it is to get a professional, high-performing business developer. It's so much harder to teach them the ironworker language and what we do in the applications. And I would actually say, and add that to that, Benji, is like, Rich, worked jobs with Brian, right? Rich has grown up in the industry, he's grown up in a local, he speaks the language, but also the relationships are there and the trust is there. And, and there's a lot of trust in this. And I would say, we talked about the people and the process and the technology, where it all comes together is trust. You got to trust the technology and the Salesforce and trust that that's going to be a tool for you. And you got to trust IR and you got to use it. Right. And you got to trust the process of, making sure you do the right work up front, identifying the right opportunity so that when you close it later on, it's something that we can certify and something that we can book. But you also have the people in this whole deal. I mean, if we have just this amount of people on the call, there's a lot more people.
Mm-hmm.
There's business agents and there's other people, including other contractors that are getting us in because they're subbing us out. Some mechanical contractors are subbing us out. So, the people side of it is that trust is really important. And I think that's where it all comes together. And that's why I will tell you until I'm blue in the face, converting iron workers in this program and this engine that we built with North American Contractor Link, converting iron workers to business developers, that's our secret sauce. And that's what's going to cause this thing to be a huge success. Those numbers will look minuscule that we put in 2020. In 3 years and 5 years,
mm-hmm.
those numbers will pale in comparison what's around the corner.
Yeah, and Tim, speaking to those numbers, good segue, thank you. Here's pipeline, right? Tim alluded to with Salesforce, one of the great things, and actually we pushed the Salesforce guys to build algorithms for us because they've never done it before and to do forecasting. And we're starting to see the benefit of those algorithms, understanding our pipeline, but we can see the work these guys are putting into this deal, right? So sitting here today, whatever it is, February 5th, 9th, whatever the date is, we're already sitting on a pipeline, gang, of 159 projects that our guys have identified. There's going to be budget. There's going to be more than likely a proposal, a bid, something to compete where we can kick other people out of those deals. On top of that, associated with those projects are about 95,000 hours. So we're in February. We're going to add probably another 70, 80, 90 projects to this thing before we get to September, October. We're probably going to add another 40, 60,000 hours. And I can tell you with the forecasting tool and what we closed, Tim alluded to that. Yeah, we're going to close business. And that point that we opened with, right? And believe me, the folks that manage us, that beat us up for the numbers, they never let us forget that's the only thing we need to do, which is to put our workers where they're not. All the damn time we think about that. So,
Jim, I will add to that too, is, when we presented the concept of forecasting this business, that was, every sales organization has to do that. You have to forecast this year, you have to forecast next year, you have to forecast the year after, and building those algorithms and building that model. And we know right now, if we put a contractor and a contractor is actually bidding an RFP, we know 50% of those will win. We just know that. So that's what the data tells us. That's what our history tells us. So that we know that once we have an RFP, because that's one of the stages of our sales process, we can spit on that number saying 50% of those ironworker hours are coming our way. And that's why in January 1, we can, with 90% confidence, spit on a number in December 31st that year, 12 months later. And we can forecast that, and eventually we'll be able to forecast this thing out 3 years.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. So again, thanks, gang. Thanks everyone that attended. Huge props to our contractor friends, Benji, Rich, of course, we'll be talking to you, I'm sure, in an hour or two. But thanks, guys, sincerely, and hope to see you as part of this kind of growing family with North American Contractor Link. So have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, whenever the heck you're watching this thing. So thanks.
Hi, my name is Kerry Walters, and I'm the Build Program Director for Impact. If your construction business is in the early planning and startup stage, or if you're an established contractor, or even if you're in generational transition, the Build Program can help you manage your risk, reduce your cost, and increase your profitability. And who doesn't want that, right? The Build Program takes the theories and concepts learned in the business fundamental classrooms and applies them to the daily planning, running, and growing of your business. Build accomplishes this with a structured business process and a dedicated coaching team. The coaching team will evaluate your individual business needs, help you develop a personalized strategic action plan, and follow up with you every step of the way. Now, all that's really good, but we don't stop there. The Build Program also provides you with the tools you need to do the job. Contractors participating in the Build Program have direct access to subject matter experts who are also construction industry specialists. This team of experts includes business professionals such as attorneys, CPAs, bonding and insurance professionals, lenders, and marketing and sales pros. We also have industry trade specialists in the areas of bidding and estimating and operations and safety. The Build Program really represents an opportunity to take your business to the next level while providing even more jobs for union iron workers. If you're interested in taking the next steps, please feel free to email or call at the contact information provided below. Thanks very much. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Everything that Impact does, either directly or indirectly, involves getting our contractors and the ironworker leadership to work together for more job opportunities. And the only way you gain market share is by taking market share away from our competition. So let's shift gears to another survey question. And this is geared at the best parts that you like most about Impact. So the survey question is, what Impact program does your organization use most? Click all that apply. And the choices are marketing, very broad category, contractor development, also broad, business development, you just heard from our business development folks, training and professional development that can be on the ironworker side or the contractor side, drug testing, or project tracking, which includes Dodge construction data or industrialinforesources.com. And in just a couple of seconds, we will share the results of this. And this tees up a conversation I had earlier this morning with General President Eric Dean and Bill Brown of Ideal Contracting on these very programs. So you can see on your screen that the training and professional development got 70%. Drug testing is still a high priority at 58%, followed by project tracking and so forth. I hope to see the contractor development and the business development, along with the marketing, start gaining more traction, as particularly the B and C really lend itself to more work hours. All right, now we're moving to our segment where Eric Dean, the General President of the Iron Workers, Bill Brown, the co-chair, management co-chair of Impact, and myself talk a little bit about Impact and what you, the real Impact, the contractors and the local union labor leaders out there, the district council presidents, get out of your program. So let me throw it out to you first, Eric. You know, what has evolved in Impact in these last 18 years and take us from 2003 to kind of where we are today?
Well, I believe that we created a labor management program as an umbrella trust to take over some existing things that we were doing. The National Fund was in existence providing training for apprentice instructors and journeyman certifications and recertification. So we built that into the level of service we did, and we looked to expand across various things we did. As Impact evolved and we had a convention, we constitutionally mandated that we took and we implemented all of Canada to be included. and recognizing there are different needs in Canada. There's different apprenticeship training issues, there's different safety issues, and we took and expanded that. We embedded our safety department, and we not only service the needs of our members and our members and our local unions, but the contractors. We put our Davis-Bacon department, which was a function of the international. Well, you know what? It's not only for the union for filing time, it was for employers to help navigate bidding projects and get those initiatives going. So we built off of the existing things we did and then looked for programs to expand. And I'll toss it over to Bill because I know there are some management initiatives that we baked in there, in addition to our North American drug testing database, which helps our contractors and our members get on industrial facilities. Bill?
Yeah, Eric. Well, looking back in history, one of the things, the III was in existence prior to Impact. And we thought it was only natural to have the III be part of this initiative and to engage contractors with labor on a more face-to-face basis. And so we did that, and we took some of the funds that were still available from III and put them into the Impact funds. Training, as Eric said, was brought in under the umbrella of Impact. Davis-Bacon, which is, Eric made a good point. A lot of people say, well, why do contractors even care about Davis-Bacon, And, well, we do because we want to know where the bottom is, And so it does help us bid jobs, and it's a good investment for our contractors so that they know where they are and what prevailing wage is in the various localities where they work. When we started Impact, and this goes all the way back, as you said, in 2003, and Joe Hunt had just been elected general president in April that year, we had our first meeting to talk about it in May. And it wasn't long. We got the Don Taylor from the NEA. We knew we had to have the support of the NEA to make this thing work. And Don was on. He was, hey, let's go with this. And we did it. And we grew and we grew and we grew. And now it's seamless in terms of you can't tell, at least I can't, is this a labor initiative or is this a management initiative? It's an industry initiative.
Well, I know firsthand by speaking with Mr. Hunt, past President Emeritus Hunt, that one of his goals and initiatives were that we met every 3 or 4 years to renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement. And sometimes it became adversarial. We'd hurl insults and we'd demean each other's importance. But what he really said was we agreed on 85% of the things that we talked about, and we bickered over how much money was going in the ironworker's pocket, how much was staying in the contractor's pocket. But contractors wanted a safe work site, ironworkers wanted a safe work site, and we always came to a resolve through our collective bargaining. This provided us an opportunity and a vehicle to meet multiple times a year to settle our differences or come up with solutions to the industry that are not collectively bargain related, where we allied ourselves, and it fostered, I think, better labor relations and took the devil's horns off of both the union leaders' head and the contractors' head and put our arms locked together, going to the legislature, coming up with solutions that, if it's access to job sites with TWIC cards or military installations, fostering the collaborative spirit to provide solutions that are industry related really grew from the very formation. III was doing some of that, looking for new initiatives. The National Training Fund was building off of tried and true things. But Bill gives a great point there. By melding the National Training Fund together, the III together, and then looking for new initiatives, which we've done quite a few, which I know the rest of our conversation is going to steer towards what else have we done.
So, within the last 30 days, all three of us have collectively been on calls with each regional advisory board co-chair, both the ironworker and the contractor. What was your takeaway of those calls?
Well, it was really interesting. Since they were independent calls, but there were so many common denominators in that phone call. Superintendent training, I think, was, and for both labor and management, superintendent training was a big, big deal. Safety training was a big, big deal. We had labor leaders even promoting estimating training. Right. And that helps our contractors, but it also helps emerging contractors, iron workers, who might be thinking about going into business, learning a little bit about, well, how do you get that first job and how do you do it without losing a lot of money? How do you make money? And we train them how to do all that stuff. And it's been received well. We need more safety training. We need more superintendent training. That was made very clear on those phone calls. And we're going to do that. Yeah. We've got our marching orders.
What do you think?
And I would say that, driving safety, there's more and more regulatory hurdles placed on the contractors and our members via certification or requirements. So one, we developed curriculum to train for that, but there was a growing need for more of that, more discussion on how to navigate COVID, more discussion how to navigate reinforcing steel standards that are bubbling up in different states, how to implement and resupply our senior leaders. I've been writing ad nauseum since I became general president that one of our goals or missions has been to replace the outgoing baby boomers. These are our most experienced iron workers, and they are oftentimes senior leaders within the union, senior leaders within companies, they're foremen and general foremen. So we adapted through impact and we expanded the curriculum to provide more. But there was a growing need that we need to increase the frequency, and we got to get past this COVID hurdle, but we got to start training more and more because we're about halfway through the baby boomer retirement wave, but there are many more expected to go. So the union, it's incumbent upon us to groom and educate. Once the local unions elect and choose their leaders, we're going to make sure they can navigate legally the Constitution of the international and labor laws in the United States and Canada. We got to make sure that our foreman and superintendent they're going to be younger with probably less experience, probably more book smarts and technology capabilities, but we're seeing every day through impact grants that allow us to incorporate technology into our training, whether it be in that foreman or superintendent training or simply paying for more technology or delivering our instruction in school. Our young kids today, they're used to learning with some technological aid. Our teachers are oftentimes folks that learn from textbooks or practical instruction. We need all of the above. But impact through the financing and resources has provided that ability. And so oftentimes the National Training Fund trustees are one and the same. They're impact trustees, and we seek the proper finances. From a safety and health standpoint, I can't tell you what the safety department has done. Yeoman's work as far as helping steer and navigate through this COVID crisis, and helping contractors and helping our members navigate safely.
We can't do anything without our contractors. Contractors can't do anything without safe, skilled iron workers. So you guys are all very intimate with the budget of impact and each line item. We go through it more than 3 times a year. You guys go through it 6 times a year. And we like to really use every penny to its very greatest value. When you look down that list of all the things impact does, obviously drug testing is one line item in that. What's your takeaway? What is your favorite, wow, I feel like we get the best bang for our buck out of X? Who wants to take that one?
I'll start, and I'm going to disclaim something you said. In the beginning, when impact was formulated, I think a lot of the labor leaders tended to cop out that impact was simply a drug testing vehicle. Right. We provided a database. The bargaining parties in the local, the contractors and the local union negotiated whether they wanted to have drug testing to have access to job sites. Right. So too many people thought that they were spending money on what, the members thought was an invasive part. It's just adapting to the construction economy. My favorite part of everything that we do is possibly the safety initiatives. And when I'm talking about safety initiatives, I'm talking about the safety supervisor, the fact that we're training ironworkers to go to work for our employers and supervise the safety of our members and not have to have a college-educated, non-tradesperson direct tradespeople that's never hung off of a beam, never tied a rebar cage, never worked on the leading edge of a building installing curtain wall or hanging stairs and stairway, or worked on a shop floor. Somebody that's worn a welding hood, worn a tool belt, and now can relate to the worker and help the contractor reinforce their safety protocols so that they can deliver the job not only safely, but profitably, so that there's more profits to bargain when we collectively bargain.
Bill, you grew up in the business, you're multi-generation iron worker, like General President. Go down the list. What's the thing that really jumps out at you most as from a management perspective, contractor, best value add?
Well, I do want to go back to the safety piece because I think this is probably the most important thing we do. And we have one of our large national contractors who was saying, you know what, we're having some ironworker issues within our company, safety issues. And they came to us, they came to Steve Rank and our executive safety director, and we put together this program for training ironworker safety people, credentialed. Now, this huge, large national contractor will tell you any day of the week, the best safety people he has are these trained ironworkers.
And that contractor is multi-craft.
And he's multi-craft, that's right. That's a good point. So now he's got ironworkers out there, of course, monitoring any of the ironwork they do, but any of the lifts they do, any craneage, all that stuff, they're monitoring all the different tasks on a job site. And not only do we have to answer to this contractor, but we have owners calling now, major U.S. owners, saying, hey, we need help of your training in this area. We're having trouble on our job sites with this situation. And we have responded. And because of the response, we gain the respect of our owners, and they think, hey, you know what, that next project, it's going to be union ironworkers on that project. So that really helps us get the work.
That's the key, is getting the work right. I mean, if you don't get new work, who cares? This is just a bunch of blather, right? So regaining market share or gaining a lost market share, however you want to talk about it, knocking on new doors, getting ironworkers in new places.
Well,
talk to me about that.
Right now, the company I'm working with is from the Midwest, and we've been looking at jobs in the near South and southeastern United States, and have really gotten help from the district consuls involved to help us be competitive, and we're bidding in a non-union world. And for us to pull down some of the jobs that we've pulled down is just, that's the working relationship between the union and management, and I promise you, that wouldn't be there if it weren't for Impact.
Good point.
And I would echo that. I would say through Impact, both Bill and I and yourself, and we bring various team leaders, various contractor leaders, various labor leaders, and we've been attending large-scale owner, end-user type meetings and literally marketing our competence and our safety performance down to the rank-and-file member. In the beginning, it was met with a skeptical eye, and especially in the South. These large industrial owners, sometimes they're fair with us in some markets and open shop or merit shop in others. We're seeing significant increase in low-density areas of increased utilization of both not only northern contractors heading to the South, but actually national contractors picking up jobs in areas where we have less than 10% market share. So for me, it has led with a top-down approach and a consistent, not going away. You know, we're going to sit, we're going to discuss with you. We know that the answer is not always going to be yes, but how do we work to yes? And by having the owners see management and labor sit together, it sells that we're sticking up for the rank and file contractor, and every contractor, whether they're in the leadership of Impact or they're just signatory to a collective bargaining agreement, they have an opportunity at that work. And we've seen increased opportunity. Has it been robust or as fast as I like? Never is. Right. You know, I have an insatiable appetite for growth, and so I can blame it on the members, I could blame it on the leaders, I could blame it on contractors unwilling to bid an area. But I can tell you in 5 years, I've seen places where like, hey, we got a job down in North Carolina. Carolinas were a bastion of low density area, and we've been picking off big jobs. Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas. We are now having our partners deal with end users and keep reporting back that, yeah, we secured this job, and it's like, I mean, 6 raising gangs, big jobs. Right. Curtain wall jobs in Nashville that we weren't getting 10 years ago, we're getting today. Not all, right, but we're getting more. Yeah. And we're building the competence through our members, through our training, and through our collaborative partnership, and then the owners, and then old-fashioned organizing work through the union, which is independent of Impact. But you know, sometimes the union's got to do what it's got to do for leverage, and then, but collectively, I'd say our partnership bodes very well.
So I'm going to ask you guys a trick question, right?
Okay.
This is a chicken or egg question. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? The biggest chunk of the Impact budget is the National Training Fund. I think we have a tremendous leader there in Lee Worley. He can't say enough great things about Lee and how he dealt with the pandemic and everything. And we also spend a tremendous amount on contractor upgrade training. What comes first?
Well, the training of the workforce, in my opinion, what Lee Worley's doing is probably the most important.
You're an established contractor.
Yeah, but and Lee
now you make your money.
Lee does do a fantastic job. We were greatly blessed to have a guy like him in that position, and he has a great team, and the results speak for themselves. Now, contractor training, is that important? Sure, very important. And I like to talk about our fundamentals of business classes, where we get young aspiring men and women who are iron workers that are contemplating going into business for themselves. They take the class. Some of them say, hey, sign me up. I want to be a contractor. But guess what? Some of them say, I had no idea. This is not for me. And I always like to say, either way, we've done our job, because we've helped promote a young man or woman who wants to be an ironworking employer. And we've also maybe cautioned somebody that maybe this isn't the right time for you to do this. Maybe you need a few more years, and you have to understand some of the banking and bonding and insurance issues a little bit better than you do now. But we've trained them in that, and they've got all the information. And, you know, we did a survey, I remember, probably 10 years ago, where, you know, we found out that almost half of our new contractors were going to be started by ironworkers. That's phenomenal. Yeah. You know, that's a huge percentage. Yeah. So those two things to me that's what's important.
I like to echo Bill's comments. You know, the one thing I can tell you is I'm thankful that our past leaders in the union and contractors formed the National Training Fund, because what we inherited there was a well-oiled machine. We had the instructor training down, we had the core curriculum embedded, we had the ability to transfer knowledge to greenhorns to make them into tradespeople, but we also had a limited foreman superintendent course. I think Lee and through Impact and the resources have expanded that. But then you take that outside of that, I'm reminded by a past General Vice President, Tadas Kislinski's remarks. He said, hey, next time you go to a contractor Christmas party, look around the room. And he said, it'll scare the crap out of you because they're all older than us. So if you think our members are getting old and getting ready to retire, where's the next generation of union contractors coming from? And that's what was probably spawned or born the idea to do contractor training. And whether it be rank and file training or training the existing company's accountant to take over because maybe that company doesn't have a successor or a son or a daughter to take over the business. So we'll train that in-house person not only to keep incumbent contractors a continuation so that they keep bidding and estimating work and hiring ironworkers, or we'd get them the brightest and best ironworkers, teach them the business fundamentals so they know the construction fundamentals and the ironworking fundamentals, but collecting, bidding, and estimating is a different thing. Those both FMI courses and self-taught courses that we have, if it scares the crap out of someone so that they're not a delinquent contractor and never go into business, I'm okay with that. If it educates someone on how not to be a delinquent contractor and take baby steps and risk their capital, you know what? Anything we can do, the more ironworker contractors we have that are signatory, the better it is for our industry to bid and secure more work on behalf of our members.
So let me come back to you, Eric, and I'll have a similar question for you, Bill. Not all business managers who are critical components in the organization, this is my opinion, are drinking deeply the impact well. What would you say to them?
Well, you know, in the 2008 housing bubble, some of the locals' resources were tapped, like their bank accounts were drained, and they're busy, you know, taking care of the needs of the members, simply dispatching, running their trust funds and their training funds and whatnot. And so some of them don't either have the staff or the financial resources to break into new initiatives. So what we've been working on is having our ironworker leadership, the district council presidents, help them. And the union established key performance indicators to take measurements of their performance. And we know what the best practices are. And how do locals achieve that? And do they have the funding, the resources, the training? Are they having political outreach so that they're recognized as pillars of their community as far as, are they doing volunteer work? Are they doing the things necessary to be recognized that they're of and from the community and they're leaders and they're good stewards of the community? And by doing that, sometimes we need to, as we do officer indoctrination, we have you guys come in to tell them the other programs that are available and how you maybe change the playbook from your predecessor. And the union does that, as well as having our management folks come in, talk about the role of the trusts and what the goals are, commonality. You know, we want everything for the cheapest possible price for health care, pension, or whatever. Some things are achievable, but it's with a partnership on the trust that you achieve those things. And I think Impact helps that by having that contractor presence to listen to them. And so we've been fostering better relationships with their signatory partners or fostering new growth with people who are yet to be signatory.
Yeah. So you were in the board meetings where we started broaching the notion of contractor training, and it was not met with glee, happiness, brotherly love. In some cases it was, but there were some that took great umbrage to it, and you know, everybody has their perspective. What do you tell the contractor who makes payroll every week and is not using our programs? Because there's a lot of them out there.
Well, you're right. There are a lot of them out there who aren't engaged and don't realize everything that we have to offer. And, you know, people are trying to run their businesses, and even if we blast them with emails every day, they're not going to read them. And we know this.
We've geared back on those emails.
I know, and we have. I know we have, and we're trying to have different communication media available to us to get the news out there. You alluded to the contractor training. yeah, we had some contractors at the beginning. Well, why should I train my competitor? Right. Okay. And if, to me, being successful in this industry means I don't really have competitors, quote unquote. I just know a bunch of guys that are in the same business I'm in, and maybe they want to do the same job I want to do. But at the end, we're all employers. We all have the same wants and needs. We have the same challenges and goals. And working through impact, we can help mitigate some certain types of exposures. Do you want some new contractor out there bidding work at half the price of what the market is? Of course not. But how do they know that unless they've been trained for that? Okay. We don't want stupid contractors out. We don't want people to fail.
Right.
It hurts our existing contractors, and it hurts that individual who's trying to do that. So we've established the protocols to where we can help educate these folks. And what I'm finding out now is more and more of our contractors, is they get to meet more contractors because of impact and because we get to meet so often. I'm seeing joint ventures developing, LLCs, subcontractor relationships, and it's all because of impact. Some of these associations that we're involved with right now, like Kurt, for example, every owner who buys our services that you'd ever want to meet is a Kurt participant.
Yeah.
Guess what? Impact's there every time.
Yeah.
And we invite our contractors to come and meet some of these individuals, the big power companies, the big three, Toyota, Honda, they're all there. All the big manufacturing companies, the big high-tech companies are all there. And it's just a big, happy hunting ground for the union ironworking industry if you utilize it correctly and if we're willing to serve on their committees and be engaged, which we are.
Or just use our program.
And it's just an opportunity, and you can't believe the response we get from these owners. We had no idea.
Yeah.
So.
No, they weren't born knowing that. So we're down to the 2-minute warning, or just a little bit less than that. I want to take a point of privilege, if I may, is just remind the audience out there, we've got some outstanding regional directors, east to west, Mark Thomas, Kenny Waugh, Zach Gorman, Harvey Swift, Jimmy McGuire, and Bert Royer covers Canada. Use those guys. They're there for you every day of the year, literally, and they are all bought in, believe me. So we've got just over a minute to go. Parting shots, General President.
Well, to all our contractors and all our members, I missed the opportunity to be together in person, be able to have a cup of coffee, maybe a beer, talk about local union initiatives, local job specifics. We're getting there. We're getting our vaccines. Look forward to the day when we get the opportunity. Bear with us on this virtual one, and here's hoping that our next one is in person so we can press the flesh and solve some of the issues that are at hand.
Bill?
I ditto General President Dean's remarks. It is tough having to meet this way, but we're making the best we can out of it. And we will still be there. The phones still work, and we're there for our contractors and for our members. And I can't thank the leaders especially the international leaders and our district council presidents and all that for how engaged they've been, even more so during this COVID epidemic.
Well, leadership is everything. And you can't have a highly successful organization without great leaders. I thank you and I applaud you and our tremendous board. The brain power on the Impact Board is truly impressive. And I thank you guys for your time right here today.